B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. So topic of tonight is destiny versus free will. A lot of people have this question whether Judaism believes in destiny, or do we believe that each person has free will? Do we believe that each person makes their own decisions in life, man or woman? Are we programmed or are we not programmed? Are we free to choose what we want to choose, or have we been programmed to choose a certain way when making a decision? Everyone knows the story of Yaakov and Esav. Twins, brothers from birth, Yaakov, Jacob, and Esav were born to our patriarch and matriarch Isaac and Rivka. Isaac and Rebecca. Yitzchak and Rivka. I don't know how many other accents I could possibly say those names. Ishag and Roga. Shout out. So, Isaac and Rebecca gave birth to Esav and Yaakov. Now there's something interesting in the Torah. The Torah says, while Rivka was pregnant with the twins, the Pasuk says, "Vaytrotzetzu habanim bekirba." The children were kicking and fighting within her. Vatomer imken, and she said, "If so, lama zanochi? What do I need this for? What's going on?" And she goes to ask what is happening, and she's given an answer that, don't worry, it's actually 2 kids. It's not 1. Question is, what was her question? And how did that really answer her question? Why did she calm down after finding out, oh, it's 2? So our Chachamim tell us, here's what was happening. Every time Rivka would walk by a place of holiness, a place of spirituality, a place of learning, God-fearing people, like a synagogue, Beit Midrash, a place of learning, one child, at least she didn't know there was 2 then, the child would start to kick. And then when she would pass by a place of idolatry, the child would kick. So she was thinking to herself, what's going on? Make up your mind. You like spirituality? You like holiness? Or do you like idol worship, idolatry? Which one is it? So she goes and asks the sage of the generation, the yeshiva of Shem Va'ever, and he tells her, listen, nothing to worry about. It's actually 2 kids. You're having twins, which meant one of them is going towards spirituality and holiness, and the other one is going towards idol worship. So from the beginning in the Torah, we're already hearing something like, hold on. Yaakov was predestined to be a tzaddik, a righteous person, because from birth in his mother's womb, he's kicking to get out when she's passing by a Beit Midrash, a place of learning. And Esav, from before birth, he's already made his decision that he's going to be wicked and he's going to go after idols. And technically, that's what happened. Yaakov became one of our patriarchs, which the 12 tribes come from, and Esav became his rival enemy, which until today even we suffer because of. So it seems that from before birth, somehow they were predisposed. So does that mean we have free will? Or does it mean no, that we are just predestined to be who we're supposed to be? So just throw in the towel and be like, hey, listen, I've been predestined to be whatever it is, so why fight it? You know what I'm saying? Gangsta. Like, go get a license for a gun and I want to bring your attention to a Rambam, Maimonides. Maimonides was not only a Torah scholar of about 900 years ago, he was a physician, philosopher, and so many other things. So basically, no joke. So much so that even today, a lot of modern philosophers have discovered turns of logic, which pretty much, when you look in the Rambam, he wrote it down 900 years ago. The Rambam, in the laws of human dispositions, says the following. דעות הרבה יש לכל אחד ואחד מבני אדם, וזו משונה מזו, ורחוקה ממנה ביותר. It says there are a lot of tendencies in all humankind, and each one is different from one another. I'm going to skip around a little bit, so if you read the Rambam, don't be like, Rabbi didn't know how to read, he skipped four lines. I'm actually skipping around the Rambam. I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's very long. So he says, Yesh Adam, there are people, shemeyushevet alav ve'eno ko'es. They are very calm, very chill. They never get angry. If I wanted to go into like Persian sects of what kind of Persians are like that, it would be the funniest thing. But I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to control myself tonight. I won't name cultures and everything. But think to yourselves, who are those that are chill? They're very calm. Nothing bothers them. Anyway. So there are those that never get angry and they're very calm. And there are those that are always angry. They get very angry very quickly. There are those that get angry, they calm down quickly. There are those that get angry, they don't. There are those that are very haughty. There are those that are not. They're very anav. They're very, humble. He says there is a lot of different tendencies. Now, listen to what he says. And all of these tendencies are tendencies that a person has from before he is born, naturally in his genes. That's just who he is or who she is. And he says, because of these tendencies that a person is predisposed to, there are other tendencies that he's going to be, there are decisions that he's going to make that he's going to be a little bit more towards because of them. And there are those that a person does not have from the beginning, from before birth. However, we learn them from people around us. Or because of the way we were raised, we learn them and we go by them. Because of other tendencies that we had before. We tend to grab onto different tendencies that we learn. Basically what he's saying is society that push you towards these things. So when you read this Rambam, it seems from the Rambam, it seems the Maimonides is saying clearly what? That each person is destined to be a certain way from before birth. You're just born with it. So deal with it. That's how it is. We have a Rambam also, chapter 5 of the laws of repentance. Hilchot Teshuvah. The other Rambam was in chapter 2 of Hilchot De'ot, dispositions. Chapter 5, he says like this in Hilchot Teshuvah, repentance. Reshut lechol adam netuna. Each person has his own will and the chance. Im ratza lahatot atzmo lederech tova. If he wants to take himself or herself on a righteous path, on a good path, and be righteous, it is in his hands. Or if he wants to go on a negative path, do something negative, it's up to him as well. That's why the Torah says, God, human being, Adam, became a person that knows between bad and good. That is to say, Kelomar, הן מזה של אדם היה יחיד בעולם ואין מין שני דומה לו בזה העניין. Man became the only being with this power. There is no other being with the power to be able to choose which way you want to go. Nobody and nothing could make this person go to do something bad or good. What is this Rambam telling us? Is it telling us that we're predisposed? It's actually saying the exact opposite. This Rambam is saying you are fully in charge. So much so, listen to what the next paragraph says. The Rambam goes all out. Al ya'avor b'machshavatecha. Do not think to yourself, don't even let this thought cross your mind. This thing, she'omrim tipeshe umot ha'olam, that the fools of the other nations say, Verov golme b'nei Yisrael, also low-thinking Jews, she'akadosh baruch hu gozer al ha'adam mitchilat beriyato liyot tzadik or rasha, that God makes a decision as to whether a person be righteous or not righteous or anything else. Don't even think about it. En hadavar ken, it is not true. Kol adam ra'ui lo liyot tzadik kemoshe Rabbeinu. Each person can be righteous like Moses, or a rasha, a wicked person like Yerovam, who was very rasha. Ve'en lo mi shechapehu ve'lo gozer alav ve'lo mi shemosh. And he continues and says, nobody and nothing could pull a person from one direction to the other. It is all up to you. So we read the Rambam in Hilchot Teshuvah. Now you have to ask yourself, this is a major contradiction in the Rambam, in the Maimonides. First, in the chapter on predispositions, the Rambam says clearly, what? That people are just born a certain way. They have a certain pull towards certain things. That's just the way they're born. The Rambam at that time, he was talking literally. And then you go into Hilchot Teshuvah, these things were written at the same time. The Rambam wasn't the kind of person to be like, I wrote a book 20 years ago, and over there, I said, you do have control. I can't find a manuscript, so I'll write another one. Hopefully they'll know that I changed my mind. That doesn't happen. Rambam wrote all of this at the same time. And our Chachamim, even if they didn't, they would have rebutted that, mentioning it in the second chapter, saying, by the way, when I said this in that other place, I didn't mean it. Or like, cross it out, delete. He doesn't say that. Which means it's a contradiction. It's a contradiction in the Rambam. Everyone following me so far? Yes? Wow, so many nods in the room. So what is this contradiction? We all know of the story of Avraham and Ephron. I'll tell you the story. Sarai Menu, Avraham Avinu's wife, dies. Avraham wants to buy a plot of land to bury his beloved wife. At that time, Me'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of the patriarchs, where we go when we go to Israel and visit our patriarchs, was owned by a person called Ephron. Avraham comes to Ephron saying, I'd like to buy this land from you so I can bury my wife Sarah. You have to read these Pesukim inside. Ephron turns to Avraham and says, Avraham, Felez, are you serious? Look, we are neighbors. Avraham, I love you. You are the greatest man. Sell you land? No way. It's yours. With me, I'm nobody. I'm a nothing. I'm your land. You own me. You own my people. You own my... Literally, that's what he says. Ephron turns to Avraham and says, you're embarrassing me here. Like, he goes off to the max. Right? He goes, please, Avraham, take the land. Take me with it. Bury me here. No. It's not my land. It's yours. Avraham a few times says, listen to me. That's not what I want. I'm willing to pay for it. All of a sudden, the pasukim change. Ephron goes, well, Abraham, now that you've mentioned it, I'm thinking to myself, 400 coins between you and I, it's nothing. If you want to pay for it, okay. Now allow me to explain something. If you did the math of how much he priced that land, I'll give you an example. It was like selling a land that was worth, in our times, $200,000, he sold it to Abraham for $3 million. That's the quote price he gave Abraham. And he was saying it like, $3 million, Abraham, $3 million between you and I, it's nothing. Seriously? Do we really? Okay. What happened? First, you're telling Avraham Avinu, you're telling him, Avraham, please, don't embarrass me, don't embarrass yourself, please. You are my master. You own the land. It's even your land. Who am I to? Avraham says, no, I'm willing to pay for it. Well, $3 million, it's nothing. If you want to, we can go to escrow right now. It's okay, I drive. I pay for gas. What happened? How did Ephron, such a person that was so respectful, there was no such thing as tarof. I don't think there was such a thing in those days. What changed? What made Ephron flip all of a sudden? I'll explain it to you from a parable, a story from Maimonides himself. This is a story they say about Maimonides. There are those that say it about somebody else, one of the Chachamim. I don't know. I've heard it about the Maimonides, and I'm going to share it with you according to what I've heard. So there's a lot of things a lot of instances that we see people that wanted to test Maimonides, or they would challenge Maimonides about his logic, about the way he would think. A philosopher comes to Maimonides basically with this thought. Everybody can be trained to do anything. It's all about pressures from outside. Everyone that, if you're raised in one kind of a family or a different kind of that's who you are going to be. And he says to him, I have cats. Cats. Not Mr. Cats, meow cats. That I've trained to be waiters. I can have cats be waiters and wait for you a 5-course meal. To prove to you that anybody could be trained to do anything. The Rambam says, 5-course meal? Show me the cats. So the Rambam says, fine, you want to prove it to me? Fine. So he invites the Rambam to 5-course meal, glad kosher, of course, probably had a mashkiach, maybe it was Simone Catering, Sharon Catering, one of the... Shout out to all of them. So it was catered, glad kosher food. And the Rambam sits, and the guy takes a little bell, ding, ding, ding. A few cats come out of the kitchen on their hind legs, and they got a towel on one paw, and they got a little, they're holding a little plate with first, drinks and stuff, and they're walking and serving the Rambam. Rambam takes the drinks, and the other doctor looks at Rambam and goes, huh? So Rambam says, wait, I want to eat the meal. We're not making any decisions. So, no problem. They have their drinks, takes the bell again, rings it, in they walk with the hors d'oeuvres. And they got the little towel, and they're bringing the hors d'oeuvres, passing it to him. Other guests were involved. Everyone's eating. The cats are serving the guests. Comes the third meal, fourth meal, and he says, listen, Rambam, you're wrong, okay? You've been proven wrong. It's over. I got cats to serve you a meal. You ask for a towel, they'll give you a towel, whatever you want. It's to prove to you that we're just we're an outcome of our surroundings, of what we've been trained to think and do. Rambam says, momento, wait. Finally, after they're done with the entire meal, the Rambam takes a little tiny box out from his pouch, and he just opens the box on the floor. and mayhem breaks out into the hall. What did the Rambam do that made the cats go crazy? He released a few mice. And the cats threw the plates and the towels on four paws. They're going crazy chasing the rats and the mice. The Rambam says to the philosopher, you're right. You could train a cat to be a waiter. You could train a cat to do whatever you want. As soon as you release a little mouse, the cat remembers, oh yeah, I'm a cat, and starts chasing the mice. What happened to Ephron? He was being so generous. Avraham, it's your land. It's yours, just take it. Wave the dollar bills. Ephron goes on four paws. 400. And it's nothing. Between you and it's nothing. Was Ephron predisposed? Maybe. But what we see from what the Rambam proves is that there's something there. You can't compare human beings to cats. Because a cat is a cat. You can train a cat to do whatever you want, but you can't always say the same thing about a human being. Why? There's no contradiction in the Rambams. One Rambam says that each person is born with tendencies. The other says, don't even let it cross your mind. Each person has their own decision to make. Is it a contradiction? No. The Rambam is telling us a fundamental rule about our will. The Rambam, there's no contradiction. He's saying what we already know, but we don't understand about what free will is. The Rambam is saying each person has a set of genetics. Those set of genetics will tell you what kind of personality you have or you can have. You could be angry. You could have you're a little too jealous, or you're a little too cheap, or whatever it might be. You have these tendencies. Yeah, you do. But that doesn't mean that's going to be who you are. You have the will, you have the charge to change all of that. That's why the second Rambam is in the halachot of repentance. Because the Rambam is trying to teach us that yes, we know that the laws of predispositions say that yes, we have challenges. People are born with challenges. However, who controls those? You do. You can control every single tendency you have. It's in your hands. That's why he says, don't listen to the fools of the world that tell you, listen, you were born like this. You can't help it. They can't help it. This is how they were born. Well, let me tell you something. Anybody that feels that way, anyone that feels that just because you're born, you're born a certain way, you have to go towards that predisposed intuition that you have because of the genes you have or whatever it might be, anyone that believes that does not believe in free will. Because what you're really saying is, because I was born this way, then I can't help it. What are you really saying? You have no free will. We need to understand the definition of free will. You know what the definition of free will is? I'll explain it to you like this. Imagine that you are walking, male or female, you're walking in the street, and you happen to be holding a big pot of boiling cholent. This is my story. I could make it any way I want. Okay? It's a boiling pot of cholent, ashpolo, chelo choresht, whatever you want to call it. It's boiling hot. You're walking in the street, and you see a guy, a terrorist, running towards you. And the terrorist is holding a bomb. Now, you know already, follow me please, this is my story, I make it up as I want. You know already that he just came from a place and he killed 200 people already. You know this. And you know where he's going. You know that there's a gathering a block away with 500 people there, and that's where he is headed. Pause for a second. You, naturally, you were born kind of, you have a mean gene. You're kind of, it never bothered you when you were a kid to kill cockroaches. You actually watched them as they died. You actually had the snake and you fed it live mice because you liked watching it. You have a mean gene in you, right? So, you see this guy running towards other people and he's going to kill. He's putting other people's lives in danger. What do? You take the hot boiling cholent pot and you pour it on his head. Heif, I know, Heif the Gondi, but it's my story. You pour it all over the guy and you stop him. Right? Now, question for all of you. Did you really use your free will here? How hard was it for you to empty that pot of cholent? Did you really use your free will? I'll give you another example. I want to make this easier for today's society. You're a vegan by choice. Don't ask. Just go with it. Kind of makes me sick to my stomach. You're a vegan by choice. And you sit in a restaurant with a bunch of friends, and they bring the menu, and the menu is steak this, steak that. Yes, put it in their face. I'm kidding. Steak, fish, chicken, poultry, all kinds of things. What do you choose? Salad. You choose the salad. Did you just use your free will? Did you make a choice? Nods? How many nods? I need to see nods. Yes. Everybody's saying yes? Thank you. This is why I wanted to say, people don't know the definition of free will. You did not use your choice here. Of course you're going to go for the salad. You're a vegan. You didn't think twice. You do not think, you don't go, well, the steak looks really good. No, it doesn't. You're not even going to look at the menu. You already know because you love tofu. Tofu's your thing. You're going to choose the salad. You are Shomer Shabbat. Okay? You wake up Shabbat morning, you go to the bathroom, and you don't flip the light switch on. Did you make a choice? No, you probably didn't even think about it. Because you don't flip the switch on Shabbat because you're Shomer Shabbat. You didn't use your free will. The only time you actually use your power of choice, your free will, is if you have an existing force against you. That's when you use your free will. With that in mind, how perfect is the Rambam now? The Rambam says each person is born predisposed to certain things. One person's more angry, one person's not, one person's too cool, one person's not too cool. All sorts of predispositions. In Chot Teshuvah he says, don't think to yourself that you don't have a choice in the matter. It's all in your hands. You know what he's saying? Rambam is saying, because we are predisposed towards these things, that's why we have free will. Without it, there is no will. Without it, we never make choices. In order to make a choice, you need to have something to choose from. An existing force against you. One sec. Let me get to the other idea and I'll take questions. Everybody knows Omer Adam, famous Israeli singer. Omer Adam, in 2018, had a hit single that I believe had the highest, it was the highest watched single and listened to single. I think it had like 48 million hits when it first came out. I'm sure you guys all know Omer Adam. January 2019, Omer was given a proposition. They called him from Eurovision. Eurovision is the contest that happened in Israel about a few weeks ago. January 2019, he had a call. They wanted him to be one of the opening acts for Eurovision in Israel. We all know the top heads from all over the world, singers I don't even want to name, went to Eurovision, to Israel. Omer Adam in January was given the opportunity of a lifetime to be one of the opening singers on Eurovision. A lifetime opportunity, meaning his career would have gone from here, woo! However, Omer never works on Shabbat. So he tells the people from Eurovision, he says, even though Eurovision is happening on Saturday night, which is no longer Shabbat, the rehearsals were happening on Saturdays. And he says, because the rehearsals are happening on Shabbat, I'm sorry, I have to turn it down. And this happened several times from several different people that called him and his manager. He refused to work on Shabbat. Now, here's the kicker. Omer is not a religious Jew. He does not look at himself as a religious, observant Jew. However, he just has one rule. I don't work on Shabbat. Tell me now, did Omer make a choice? Absolutely. When you come from a family that doesn't keep Shabbat, you're predisposed not to keep Shabbat. Therefore, when the other things in your life, in religion that you're not keeping, but this one you choose to keep, it gets harder and harder. And therefore, when you get that call from Eurovision, do you actually have to use your free will? Oh boy, you definitely do. That's why Michtav Me'Eliyahu, Rav Eliyahu Dessler says, therefore the only difference is the amount of reward a person gets. Do you think I get the same reward as Omer Adam does when I keep Shabbat? Omer Adam, the reward that he gets for turning down such a deal, it is way higher than you can possibly imagine. Because he had a huge force telling him, listen, this is a chance of a lifetime. You don't keep that much of anything else. I'm not saying he doesn't, but this is what he looks at himself as. That's when we make a choice. We keep on excusing ourselves and other people by bringing up the genetics and tendencies. Well, they can't help it, or I can't help it. I was born this way. She was born that way. He was born that way. What we're really doing is we're saying we no longer believe in free choice. We no longer believe that we have the will to change. That's against the Torah. The Torah believes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us in the Torah, that man was created different from all the creatures. How was he different? We were the only beings in the world that got the gift of free will. We can think for ourselves. How do we know this? Very simple. God wouldn't say anything is a sin, or wouldn't put any punishments for any of the sins, or any reward for any of the mitzvot of the Torah, if we actually didn't have the will to choose them. If we were just programmed the way we are, then how could Hashem say, hey, how dare you to do that? We could just turn to Him and say, hey, you created me this way. You wanted me to do these things. The fact that Hashem in the Torah so many times says, don't do this, do that, means He is giving us the choice. We have full command, full control. No more excuses. We cannot possibly excuse ourselves anymore. Unfortunately, today's society is being full of it. Every turn we make, there's another new thing that comes out and says, well, if you can't help it and you were born this way, what can we tell you? We can't give you jail. It's not your fault. Seriously? Well, even according to the Torah, as a side note, a person that has certain tendencies or was brought up a certain way, and therefore because of that, they take some side turns in life, making some mistakes, obviously they don't have the same punishments as somebody that didn't. There's a scale here. Someone that had a difficulty growing up, and certain mitzvot might be harder for them than others, and they still keep those mitzvot, obviously, they're going to get much more reward than someone that was born in a family that always kept all the mitzvot and always kept Shabbat. But those, only He knows. We don't know those things. What we know is, we have the choice. So circling back, Esav and Yaakov were twins in the womb, and in the womb they were already trying to kick out Yaakov. Every time his mother would walk by something spiritual, he would kick. And Esav, every time she would walk by something non-spiritual, idolatry, he would kick. Were they not given the choice to be better? No, they were. They just had different tendencies. Esav had different tendencies. Yaakov had different tendencies. I'll prove a story that Yitzchak Avinu, our patriarch, wanted to give the blessings, which meant everything. These were the blessings of Isaac. Who did he want to give it to? Esav, his wicked son. And the Torah says, kind of hints to he might have not known, or he was, none of that. We're talking about the patriarch here. You cannot say Isaac did not know his own son. So why did he want to give him the blessings? Didn't he know that Yaakov was the righteous one and Esav was angry, a warlord? Why did he want to give him those blessings? And Chachamim tell us, in fact, Yitzchak Avinu knew exactly who Esav was and what potentials he had. And he said, he's right to have those potentials because he is built to be a king. And a king has to be able to go to war. A king has to be a fighter. A king has to be tough. He's going to be a leader. That's why he makes those decisions. He needs to make the hard decisions. Obviously, God had other plans. God knew that on the side as well, Esav had become very wicked. So he didn't deserve those blessings. But Yitzchak didn't know in that heart. Yitzchak only knew the tendencies that his son Esav had. So he wanted to give him the blessings because there's nothing wrong with having those tendencies. Why? Because if you have tendencies of being mean, and there's a guy walking and he's about to go kill some 500 people, and you dump that cholent pot, does that make you mean? Not at all. You just saved 500 people. However, it was easy for you to do it, right? Because you had that mean gene in you. If you were that sensitive guy, and you would have made a decision like, I just can't do it. What did you just do? You just killed 500 people. Because you were sensitive. Which is what's happening now. There's a lot of cults out there. There's a lot of groups calling themselves fighting for Mother Earth. They fight for like ponds that Africans that are starving in some parts of Africa, and they don't allow them to fish in certain ponds. Why? Because those fish are almost going to be extinct. So human beings starve so that fish survive. They're sensitive, but they just have their sensitivities crooked, which happens when you don't know how to make a decision, when you don't know how to make choices. Yitzchak Avinu knew exactly who Esav was. Esav was a redhead. He was built for leadership. I know people like that. King David was a redhead. King Solomon was a redhead. They had the same tendencies. If King David didn't have tendencies to fight wars, he could not stop all the enemies of Am Yisrael so that we could have the Beit HaMikdash. God told David HaMelech, you can't build the Beit HaMikdash. Why? Because you spilled too much blood. Because he fought so many wars. Was David wicked? He was the greatest tzaddik. He was one of the most righteous kings we've ever known. But he had those tendencies. But it just matters how you use those tendencies. If you use them the correct way, every tendency Hashem gives us is for our own good. But to use them, or I should really say it like this, but to not to use them and lay them low and say, this is just who I am, so I'm just going to follow what my heart is telling me. Well then, you really are a slave. You have no free will. You are not using your free choice. Harav Ovadia Yosef Zecher Tzadik V'Racha, I just want to show you how much potential we have to change our tendencies, the most normal tendencies every human being has. Harav Ovadia Yosef, when he was a little older, he has a heart attack. And his sons and everybody that was with him, they rush him to the hospital. In the hospital, the doctors, the surgeons come. The best, of course, this was Harav Ovadia Yosef. He was the chief rabbi of Israel. They tell him that they need to take him into emergency surgery now, because his arteries were almost closed. Harav Ovadia hears this and says, no. Give me 2 hours. I'll be back in 2 hours. His sons look at him and they go, Abba, what are you? This is sakanat nefashot. You're risking your life. What 2 hours? They need to do surgery now. That's why they call it emergency surgery, because it needs to happen right now. He says, I need to go home for 2 hours. I have something to do. I need to do it before doing this. He would not hear it. So finally, they take him home. 2 hours later, without a word, he says, just take me. You could barely breathe. They take him to the hospital. They perform emergency surgery. Baruch Hashem comes out fine. After the surgery, his son comes in and asks, Abba, what was that? What did you need the 2 hours for? Listen to what this tzaddik Zichron Livracha says. He says there is a woman, she's an almana, which is the worst possible pain. A woman that has lost her husband, she doesn't know if he's dead, he's MIA. So she can't get married. She's lost for life. There were only certain people that could find the evidence to give her the permission to remarry. And I had those answers. I could not go on that surgery table, God forbid, not make it out, and that woman not be able to remarry again. God forbid anybody need any surgery. But think of someone that needs emergency surgery. They just had a heart attack. Who are they thinking about? Themselves. That is natural. Is that true? That is naturally who we are. Every person is like that. You're not going to expect anybody to say, well, I'm going to help you first before I go in. No one's going to do that. How did Rabbi Ovadia do it? You think he didn't have those tendencies to care for himself? Of course he did. What, he didn't eat? He didn't sleep? He was human. How did he do it? Because we have the willpower to refine our beings, to become better people, to work on ourselves, on our characteristics, to become better than angels. Better than angels. We're not cats. We're not just trained mammals. We're not just smarter mammals. We're not. We can become greater than angels. Angels have no free will. They're programmed. Their master HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them what to do and how to do it done. We are not. We have a will. We have free choice. I'll tell you one more story. Rav Moshe Feinstein, one of the Gedolei Hador, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he was one of the greatest poskim, halachic codifiers of the Ashkenazic world. In his elderly age, they decided to give him a driver, to find someone from the yeshiva to drive him around. Obviously, this was a great honor. So they find the boy from the yeshiva that wanted to drive the Rav home and bring him back from home every day. And he was so beyond belief that he has the merit to drive around Rav Moshe Feinstein. One such day, he was so nervous to get the rabbi in his car. He opens the car door, the rabbi gets in, shuts the door, goes, sits in the driver's seat, drive, I think 8-9 minutes to the rabbi's home. The rabbi gets home, he opens the door for the rabbi, goes around, opens the home door, the rabbi thanks him gently, and he goes on his day. Once the rabbi goes home, he turns to one of his sons or somebody that was home, I'm not sure, and says, drive me to the hospital right now. What happened? He shows them his hand. His hand had been stuck in the door, and the boy had closed the car door on the rabbi's hand and drove 9 minutes while his hand was still between the door, not a sound. They take him to the hospital. They were able to put a cast on and fix everything. So the son turns and says, why didn't you say something? This tzaddik, look at what he says. He says, he was so excited to drive me around. Couldn't break him like that. For him to go to school and tell everyone I was the one who closed the door on the rabbi's hand, that would shatter him. Can't do that to someone. What would our reaction be immediately? Scream. We would scream, maybe not at him, but at least from pain. But the thing is, we're not cats. If we were cats, we would probably naturally have to scream. But because we're not cats, we have a choice even in that. Even in controlling our pain, our reaction to pain. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. That's when we actually make a choice. Free will means having the opportunity to go the natural route, but deciding not to. That's why the two Rambams are not in contradiction. Rambam clearly says yes, each person is born with different natural tendencies. However, you decide what is the controlling factor. Are you going to control your urges, your tendencies, or are they going to control you? Because after 120, no one will have an excuse to say, well, this is how you created me. May we all grow old and wise, and Bezrat Hashem be able to see Pnei Moshiach Tzidkenu, Bimhera v'Yamenu, Amen, Ken Yeh Ratzon. Thank you.